Hello, my name is JulianneKeaster. For my 909 project, I completed a socioeconomic tier study of Tucson Unified School District, also known as TUSD. So the study area for this project was the city of Tucson's largest school district, TUSD. And as of 2017, TUSD serves approximately 45,000 students and is the home of more than 80 elementary, junior, and senior high schools. TUSD reached out to the University of Arizona and the GIS department, and she requested some help from our program in performing a case study of TUSD schools to determine the socioeconomic traits of the students living within the TUSD school boundary. So her suggestion, which we ended up using because it was really great, was replicating a study performed in 2018 by the Texas Education Agency using the San Antonio, Texas school district. Just a little bit of background on that study because it ties into what we did. The San Antonio study utilized 4 socioeconomic attributes from the U.S. Census Bureau's American Community Surveys to calculate and classify its students into 4 socioeconomic tiers. With this data, the Texas School District, San Antonio Independent School District, identified socioeconomically disadvantaged students at its schools. The study was instrumental in the justification needed to advocate for, lobby, and ultimately gain additional funding for the school district's socioeconomically disadvantaged and historically underserved students. The San Antonio School District's funding was increased in certain key schools to better serve the students whose needs were not being adequately met with existing school funding. So I ended up volunteering to do this study and replicate the San Antonio study for TUSD. Kind of some personal reasons and some background about me. I have 2 children in elementary school myself. So public education is a cause that's very important to me, as is the reality we live in today in 2022 in the United States, that millions of children live in poverty, experience food insecurity, and lack stable shelter. It's my hope that this study will allow TUSD to determine which of its schools have high numbers of students who are underserved and economically unstable. Once this socioeconomic data is further studied and validated, I believe TUSD will be better equipped to offer high quality support to its students so they can thrive and actively participate in the quality education that this exceptional public school district offers. So the first step that I needed to do to complete this study was to obtain data. And this is a high-level overview of the workflow I completed in order to capture, transform, and analyze the data. I retrieved first census block group data from the 2016 to 2019 5-year American Community Surveys from the United States Census Bureau, and I specifically used tiger line shapefiles that were in a geodatabase format. Next, I needed to obtain TUSD boundary and attendance area data, which I was able to find on the Pima County Geospatial Data Portal. I also was able to find some data on the City of Tucson's Geospatial Data portal to get the boundaries I needed for my my study area and my study. So I also obtained a school points feature class, and that was what you saw in the previous slide with all of the green points. After obtaining this data, I performed spatial joins and then clipped all shapefiles down to the TUSD attendance boundary. The next step was stage 2, which was transforming the data. I performed calculations and I weighted socioeconomic variables to create the 4 tiers. And just to contextualize it, tier 1 is the lowest socioeconomic score, meaning the most socioeconomically disadvantaged. And then tier 4 represents the highest socioeconomic scores, comparatively the most socioeconomically advantaged. Next, I created visualizations of all data. And then once the visualizations were completed, I moved on to stage 3, which was to analyze the data and to make inferences from the maps I created. The next step I completed was analyzing tier distribution across the entire TUSD boundary. And lastly, I created visualizations of each of the 4 tiers distributions across TUSD's attendance areas. I'm so sorry. My little one is home from school today. One of the inspirations for this project. Okay. So this table represents the census attributes I utilized to calculate and categorize the 4 socioeconomic tiers within the TUSD boundary. Like the San Antonio study, I determined students' socioeconomic statuses using the following 4 attributes as measured by the US Census Bureau at the census block group level. 1, median household income. 2, owned versus rented homes. 3, single versus dual parent households. And 4, educational attainment of adults aged 25 and older. And this kind of is a lot to look at. It's a lot of different attributes. So the educational attainment one was the one that took the most time. Most of the information was combined into 5 different educational categories, which I will touch on in a slide in just a moment. The following slides contain the visualizations of each attribute of the census block groups within the TUSD boundary. So if you look at figure 4 on the left, it's the percentage of dual parent households per block group. And for these visualizations, I decided to make lighter colors represent lower percentages and in one case scores in a future map that you'll see. And darker colors represent higher percentages. So you can see the darkest green in certain areas of the TUSD attendance boundary have quite a big percentage of dual parent households. Figure 5 is the percentage of owner occupied homes per block group. Again, the dark colors represent the higher percentage of owner occupied homes per block group. Sorry about that. So figure 6 is the median household income by block group. And again, the darker colors represent higher income. So you can just get an idea of kind of the income situation of the different populations living within each block group in TUSD. And there's quite a few. The white represents the lowest income, which would be $0 to $34,076 median household income, which is quite low for this modern day 2022. And there's quite a few of those, as you can see. And then as the blue gets darker, the income goes up, and the highest income recorded from these data sets was $120,334. Next was figure 7, which was the percentage of households per block group, just to give you an idea of the population density in each block group. And it's kind of helpful to have this comparison because, as you can see, there's high population densities and some key block groups in the center of the attendance boundary that also have the lowest median household income, which I thought was an interesting juxtaposition. These next 3 slides show the educational attainment data of adults over age 25 living within the TUSD boundary. This first figure is the percentage of the population over age 25 with less than a high school diploma. And again, as the colors get darker, the percentages go up. So there's some higher percentages. The highest percent recorded was 58.2%, and that's represented between 35.77 to 58.2% represented by that really dark orange. Figure 9 is the percentage of the 25 and over population with a high school diploma or a GED on the left. Then figure 10 on the right is the percentage with some college or an associate's degree. And this is all per block group. Figure 11 is the percentage with a bachelor's degree. And then finally, figure 12 is the percentage of the population over 25 with, an advanced degree, meaning either a professional degree or a PhD. Here is a more detailed model showing the methodology of how I transformed each of the geospatial data files for this study. To reduce the block groups, I downloaded from the US Census Bureau's data portal to only include those within the TUSD boundaries. The ArcGIS Pro 3.0 geoprocessing tool select by attributes was performed several times up until I was able to only have those block groups that were in the city of Tucson. And then once I have the city of Tucson block groups created as a feature layer, I clipped this block group data to match the outer boundary of TUSD so that only TUSD's block groups were included in the shapefile. The City of Tucson Schools points feature class was clipped to only contain those features that fell within TUSD's jurisdiction, meaning the schools that fell within TUSD's jurisdiction. And spatial joins were performed to join the TUSD boundary to the TUSD attendance areas, and like I mentioned earlier, to the City of Tucson block group shapefiles. These joins resulted in an attribute table containing the socioeconomic traits that I was able to analyze for this study. So here's the resulting map after I created the 4 socioeconomic tiers. When performing a cursory visual analysis, it's apparent that the central portion of the school district's attendance boundary is heavily dominated by tier 1 block groups, while a large percentage of tier 4 block groups are present on the far eastern and far western edges of the attendance boundary. The final slide here is the conclusion of my study, which was how each of the 4 socioeconomic tiers are currently distributed across TUSD's attendance boundaries. And as you can see, the top left map is the tier 1 distribution, and it gets darker as there is a higher percentage of tier 1 block groups, and then so forth with tier 2 top right, tier 3 bottom left, and tier 4 bottom right. And these are the references I used for my study. And it was quite an interesting and very rewarding project, and I really want to thank the TUSD staff that have helped me throughout this, and also my advisor Yoga.